I would like to welcome everybody back to the final day, okay, our day 5 of our Monster Virtual Career Fair online session. Joining us today, we will have Shravan Shetty. He will be sharing with us on how to leverage on research-focused networking for career success. And I think this will be a very interesting session for each and every one of us, whether you're in the business of sales, whether you're in recruitment, whether you're a working professional or fresh grad. Networking is really, really important, right? So Shravan has been featured on LinkedIn Person of the Year list for 2 consecutive years. He is an expert in educational consulting, career guidance, and he holds almost a decade of experience in working with individuals and groups, enabling them to better their skills for productivity and for growth. Some of the projects he has worked on include those with impact on school culture, higher education, employability skills, work productivity, entrepreneurship, succession planning, and leadership development. So happy to have you on the session with us, Shravan. Welcome to every one of you guys who have just joined us as well. So over to you, Shravan.
Hey, hi, Stella. Thank you for the lovely introduction. I'm really glad to be here today. We say, we have often been told that your network is your net worth. So be it a pandemic, be it recession, be it any kind of a situation where you are migrating to a different country, it's very, very crucial for you to network and build your network consciously. And I would like to say that I would like to, at this point of time, quote Jordan Ching, who's a well-known product designer, strategist, and startup advisor. He says, surround yourself with remarkable human beings. They will be the anchor that grounds you and the wings that will lift you to the stars in terms of whether you are somebody pursuing a career in an organization, whether you are somebody, who's an entrepreneur scaling your business. So it's really crucial that we first begin with who you are, right? So right now, it doesn't matter whether you're a fresher who's straight out of college or you're somebody who's got 5 years, 10 years, 15 years of work experience. It's important for us to not look at networking for the sake of networking, especially in an age where you have LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, a lot of social media platforms where you're constantly connecting with people, right? So from that perspective, I would like to say that let's begin with who you are and what do you seek right now from your network, right? So I would like to begin as a career coach to talk to you about GROW, the GROW framework, which Sir John Whitmore was an executive coach, talked about shaping one's own career. So the question is, what's your goal right now? What is the goal that you have? Do you want to be like an engineer? Do you want to be a specialist in a particular area of knowledge? Do you want to build your skill deeper in marketing or wider in marketing? What are the options which are in front of you? And what is the way forward that you're looking at, right? So the GROW model demonstrates that when you are actually looking at shaping your career path, it's important for you to identify what is the pathway for your career first, right? And when you look at your career, when you start networking, automatically, you will find that, a lot of key aspects begin to fall in place. So there might be people who will tell you that, hey, it seems like from the way you're talking, you don't have a network. So let me assure you, all of us have networks. Our network could be coming from our network of school friends. It could be college friends. It could be a hobby or a sport that you pursue that you are, spending time on. Now, these people are not just the hobby that they are interested in, right? They work in organization, they work in institutions. So which is why I always tell audiences that I speak to that every human interaction is a networking opportunity, and every virtual human interaction when it comes to this virtual career fair is also a networking opportunity. So let's actually go further to understand and identify that when you're within an organization, also you are building a network each day because of the work that you do and the way you're interacting with the people whom you work with. When you show that you care for what they know and you also care for who they are as a person, they start investing trust into you. And trust is one of the fundamentals of quality based networking that I would like to emphasize on. With this, let me speak to you about what Dr. Ivan Misner, who is the founder of the Business Networking International Group, constantly has iterated when he built this BNI chapters across the world. Definitely look up BNI. I'm not a member of BNI, but I have definitely, understood some of the core principles of BNI and how networking grows. So Dr. Ivan says that the only thing more important than the size of your network, absolutely, definitely, affirmatively, is the quality of your network, right? So when I was initially, I started out after my bachelor's in business management, and I started looking at building my network on LinkedIn. I would add everybody and anybody whom I could find, right, who would be willing to connect with me, until a mentor told me that you need to be looking at it from your career perspective. Where do you want to go now? And when I started looking at my career post my MBA to get into the training and development field, into corporate training, I started by looking at people who are in the HR fraternity, who are the decision makers when it comes to giving training projects and assignments, right? Identify who's the key decision maker who can make an impact, right, for you in terms of scaling your career and building your network. So, which also brings us to the fact that how do we define a network? What should we be building a network on, right? So I say ask, right? We all know attitude, skill, knowledge is the key way to succeed in life. But have you thought about your network which you're currently in, and how is it that this network is helping you develop your attitude, helping you, build your skill block on block? Are you looking at what is the knowledge that a particular network can help you with? So if you are keen on building yourself as a UX UI designer, it's not just important to do a course, it's also important to know who's working in which organization in UX UI, and how is each organization looking at UX UI for their clients, from a different vantage point. So you could be working in the IT sector, or you could be an artist, right, who works on art installations. You could also be an archaeologist. But it's important for you to build a tribe of not just people who are very similar to you, similar age, similar experience, similar education background. It's also to add diversity. But considering that technology has opened up the options, you have a problem of plenty right now. So you need to still anchor how are you going to do this networking now, right? So I would like to begin with focusing on skills, for example. Uh, when we look at McKinsey, one of the leading consulting companies in the world, they very famously talked about how the future of work would, emerge. And they spoke about how there are I-shaped people, there are T-shaped people, right? And who are I-shaped people? I-shaped people are people who join an organization with a certain skill for, let's say, programming, coding, or might be somebody who's interested in market research. But if you're going to just deepen your skills only in one pillar or one particular area, let's say you're a qualitative researcher and you focus only on focus group discussions, then the value to the organization that you're working with is finite. So in the beginning of a career, it's okay for us to be a specialist, right? Even later on in a career, when we are specializing in something which is in high demand, it's great for you to be a specialist in that. But it's also important if you are looking to really build your career, right, in depth and, wide. It's important for you to be a T-shaped person, which means, for example, when we talk about a vertical line or a functional disciplinary skill, examples could be like Microsoft CRM expert. You could be a paid research expert in digital marketing. You could be a mobile analytics expert, specifically, in a vertical area. That's what an I-shaped person would do. But a T-shaped person would be somebody who's a social media manager who understands how digital marketing works in terms of not just the tools like Google AdWords, but also understands how do you build a community online, right? How do you market content, for example? How do you weave all these three components to be a ace digital marketing manager where companies are fighting, to hire you and take you on board, right? But now we are at a point in life with technology automation setting in that people are looking, as you grow up the ladder, to be a M-shaped person or a multi-skilled person, which means that you have like skill sets which are similar and divergent as well, which could be, for example, you're a product designer with coding experience, or you could be somebody with big data analytics background with a specialization in electronics, or you could be a musician with animation skills, right? So that you can take your music online and also, bring in animation to engage more with your audience, right? So these are all examples of how we are building our skill sets. Now you need to ask yourself at this stage in your career, whether you are an entrepreneur or you are somebody looking to get a job or who are already at the middle stage in your career, where are you going to build your network? Do you need to build a I-shaped network in specific areas where you need to be on call with somebody who can be a go-to person for a certain skill set or a knowledge area that you're working on. Or it could be that you're a salesperson who used to work, for example, if you're an executive recruitment and you're working on projects with clients, for example, where if you're headhunting and you're headhunting for the position of a CEO, vice president, the engagement time for you to bring in candidates is longer, and that's understood as part of the business. But what if you decide to take a leadership position in a recruitment firm where the focus is on hiring college graduates in huge numbers, right? So in that case, how are you going to switch to a different mindset? You need to change your attitude. You need to, look at how do you go from executive recruitment to entry level recruitment, which primarily brings to the fore that you need an attitude, skill, knowledge, readjustment or recalibration, as we could probably say, right? So, which brings us to the point that why are we talking about all these skill sets? Let's look at it purely from an employer's perspective, right? An employer or an organization takes efforts to develop your knowledge and skill sets on one side, which comes from the left-hand side of your brain. But organization success also depends on your attitude and habits, right? So if you are somebody who is great at working with people within the organization, then they know that you can move your ideas and people also very well along with you. But a lot of times, your reputation internal to the organization is also built by the contacts, how you can open up revenue, for your organization with a client base, or if it's a current project that you're managing, how do you deepen the relationship and bring in more revenue from the client side, right? So I'm just giving you different perspectives. There's one networking which you do as a consultant so that you can have a pipeline of work. There's the other bit of networking that you do to strengthen and consolidate your position within the organization that you're working with, which means that today, as the organization moves to different target markets and segments, you got to add on more skills. And sometimes the best people to ask, how should you go about acquiring a skill, is to ask experts whom you can, who could already be a part of your network or whom you could reach out to, right? So if you're somebody who's just starting out on your career and you've been attending the Monster Virtual Career Fair, my question to you is, as you listen to each expert speak, how much of that content made sense to you, and how many of you thought of trying to identify that person, on LinkedIn, reaching out to the person, right? Elaine was in the previous session. How many of you would have thought of reaching out to Elaine, right, and add her to your network? How many of you would be considering reaching out to Stella, and your Stella, who's just hosting this segment, and connecting to her and building your network? So there are opportunities for you to build your network every now and then. So it's important for us to maximize our mindset from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, to look at opportunities for networking, but look at it from your career plan, from your career growth perspective, and not just generally from a social media influencer perspective, to put it on LinkedIn and say, hey, I have 1 lakh followers, I have 1 lakh connections. The question is, what are these 1 lakh connections doing for you? How can they help you shape your career, further, right? So that's a really crucial point for you to, look at. The current thought in networking is that you should find quality connections. This means that you should find people who are directly related to what you are trying to achieve. Now, how do you define quality, right? Will depend on where you are and in what position you are. So if you're in a sales function or sales role, and the organization believes that you should be meeting 10 new people every day, you cannot always focus on quality. But what you can do is you can look at what is the profiling of the customer that your organization is looking for and try and be sharp on that. But it's important for you to also look at your customers also as your network, because your customers can give you a very good set of referrals of newer customers. Any customer who's happy with you brings in 10 more customers, right? So it's important for you to look at all your stakeholders based on the role or function that you're working in terms of how you build your network. If you're a techie working in an organization, the quality of your network will not just be the people whom you're working with, whom you have to work with, but it would also be to get a second, third perspective on how there could be certain components of technology that your current organization is working on for a client, but probably will work on, let's say, a year from now, right? So when you attend association forum, talks. For example, let's say you go to forums where there is like a TED Talk series, right, on experts related to your field. It would be good for you to attend them, reach out to them, have a conversation with them, and see how what you know, how relevant it is, right? There is no point in us believing that we know it all and we are the very best at what we do. So today, as I've been working as a career coach for close to more than a decade, I constantly reach out to peers and people who are senior to me, people who are younger to me as well, because there are certain aspects of attitude, skill, knowledge that I believe that I can imbibe from them. And I've got to know a lot of industry certifications and programs as well, where I can develop myself through this network, which I call as my tribe, right? So as you grow older in life, you will find that people will tell you that if you look to lead an organization, that you should build a personal board of directors. When you're younger, people will tell you who's your A team now, right? Who's the one who's egging you on to help you be more successful in your career, right? So at the outset, as we, I'm very conscious of the, the time that I'm looking at, and I'm looking at in the 20 minutes that has been given to me before we get into the Q&A. I want to leave you with a tool, right? A tool which helps you, focus on building your network for yourself. And also, from a viewpoint of whether the network that you're building is you're adding a person to your network, or you're becoming a member of Rotary, for example, as a community, or you join an industry association, right? How do you actually, validate that? How do you actually, have something which is a very relatable tool, very simple to look at, very simple to execute, so that it's top of your mind as you look at building a network based on which part of your life you are, where you are in your career. So a few of us could be, focused on building a really quality network. Few of us might want to build a quantity network with a lot of people, because you are in such a role which requires you to do so. But I would stress that if you're at the beginning of your career, please do focus on building a quality network, right? And for that, I want you to pay attention to the word listen. Yes, the word listen, right? Listening skills are very, very important. So I always tell people, listen to your network, right? But when I say, there is a twist to it. So the word listen itself is something which I use, with different inferences. And from a networking perspective, I would like to say that when you are building your network, you should first look for people who would make a difference to your life, right? So when you are looking to add somebody to your network, the first thing you should do, the first step you should take is learn about the individual, learn about that industry association, learn about that organization or forum, whether it's a Facebook group, whether it's a LinkedIn group, whether it's a group that you would go to monthly, to interact with if you're part of a media association in Malaysia or wherever you are right now, right? Identify and see what is that group been doing, how have they been adding value to each other, right? It'll give you an understanding of whether this is a group, when you look at their daily, weekly schedule, annual schedule, if this is something that you want to be a part of, right? Because apart from a 40-hour work week, you're going to be spending significant time being a part of these forums or associations, right? And if you're adding somebody to your network, if you're not going to reach out and connect to the person, what is your agenda for adding that person on LinkedIn? Why did you accept that person's invite, right? Was it just to, just widen your network from a 6 degrees of separation so that you would have more members in your, in your LinkedIn network? It's great if that's what you want it to be. But if you are looking to specifically have a career focused plan of, reaching a certain milestone, you got to see, how can this person, this individual, this association add, a certain approach, attitude, mindset to the way you're functioning. How can this individual or organization help you shape your skills, right? Better, help you, definitely build up your knowledge, right? Are you reaching out to that person because you looked at the fact that this person has done a certification that you're interested in, and before you invest in your, invest your money into it, hard-earned savings into it, you would want to know how effective it was for that person, right? So it's important for you to learn about the individual and association. Which is the second step, is you need to interact with them virtually or physically if possible, to interact with them, collect, share information, see how you're both benefiting from this relationship. It's important from time to time to structure what you can contribute, what you can receive from a person. You should not look at your network as a use and throw only from your agenda, what you need. Uh, BNI has a very core fundamental concept in building networks where they say that givers gain. So givers gain means is when you contribute to community, when you contribute to society, when you contribute to the field that you are in, automatically you get back a lot, right? It might not always be monetary, but by sharing your knowledge, by sharing your skill, by telling people how to shape their attitude, you will always benefit by improving yourself as well as your network. And your network can see that you're not just looking at taking from them, you're also giving them, right? So keep looking at structuring what you can contribute and how you can help people in your network. Test whether what you're giving them is what they need or not, right? When we do charity, we shouldn't be disposing of what we don't need. We should be giving people what they need. So it's very important for you to constantly test if what you're contributing is something that is making sense to the network that you're contributing to, or to the individual whom you're contributing to. It could be a colleague, it could be a group outside your office hours, it could be an association within the organization where for the CSR activities, the corporate social responsibility projects, where they're working with NGOs, you're contributing your time. But you need to be contributing your time in a manner which your CSR team or your HR team or the NGO feels that it's worth their time and it's valuable for them, right? It's really very, very important when we look at this tool. Listen, we've spoken about how you need to learn about the individual organization. We've talked about how you need to interact, collect, build the relationship, share information, see how you can contribute to each other. We've talked about structuring what you can contribute. We've talked about testing whether they need what you're giving them and whether you are benefiting from what they're giving you, right? So if you feel after a point of time that this network isn't serving your larger purpose in life or contributing to your career, it's not adding value, it's probably best for you to leave the network, right? You keep working with a network or a group of people till you can contribute or they are contributing to your growth. So right, the last two steps of listen, right? Is empathize, right? People don't care about you, how much you know, until they know that you care. So it's important for us to be patient with people as we expect people to be patient with us, right? So empathy is the cornerstone of building network, right? People want to build network with warm, genuine human beings. People don't want to build network with calculating machines, right? So that's the whole point, empathize. The last step in the word listen, which is going to be your go-to networking tool for reference, is network with individuals and people whom you know you're making a difference, but it's important for you to constantly see how much time you want to spend with this network versus a new network versus an old network. So just to give you an idea, so you might be very, very active in a community or in a network, in a tech network at the beginning of your career, right? But as time passes, you can see that you're getting a lot of validation from people in this network. They look to you for your technical expertise. But you might reach a milestone in your life where you're building your leadership skills, and that needs more time, which means that you have to let go of something that you love, which is giving you a lot of validation, but probably that's not what you need to do to shape your career, right? So it's important that you network with purpose, network with great intention, keeping your career pathway, your career roadmap, which will change. So I'm not saying right now at the Monster Virtual Career Fair, you might be in your mid-20s, late 20s, and you might decide that this is your career plan, for the next year ahead. But every year, please do review your career plan and see if the networks that you're building are adding value holistically to your life, to every part of your life, not just your career, work-life balance, sports, interests, hobbies. Networking is a full circle wheel, right? It is something which is really crucial, which can determine, it's like a lift, right? When you enter a network, it can either take you down or take you up, right? So figure this for yourself in terms of how do you want to shape your network, build your network to leverage your career success. And that can happen by constantly doing the research on yourself and on your network and ensuring that there's a fine balance, right? So keep that in mind. I wish you all the best to leverage building your network by constantly researching what you need, what your network needs for career success.
Thank you so much, Shravan, for sharing with us the importance of research focus networking. We have we have probably about 10 minutes for a couple of questions. So
Great.
let me take the first question. I usually add all the requests that I get on LinkedIn, but I never connect with them. I think this is more towards never interact with them, right? How can I initiate a conversation with these, strangers that I've just connected with?
So I think that's a great question. So the first thing you should definitely do is look at the profile of the person, see if the profile is filled out, because there are also a lot of fake profiles. There are scamsters on LinkedIn as well. See if the profile is of interest to you in terms of you're benefiting from it, or you feel that you can contribute. So I would say, Stella, if, for example, if the person is a HR manager and sees that there is a young person connecting, maybe the person is seeking mentorship. So it would be good for the person to have at least one level of interaction, drop a message to the person and say, hi, I can see that you're looking to add me to your network. What is your intention? Is there something that you're looking to, you're looking out for, advice, or do you have an opportunity for me, right? So it would be good to have a first level of interaction before you decide to add or not add somebody to your network.
Great. I think one good tip also, if you take on, if you were sending a lot of connection requests to people you don't know, once they accept your invitation to connect, I think it's also nice to actually drop a note to say something like, hey, thank you so much for connecting with me. Would love to be in touch with you. Let's keep connected. Take care. Bye-bye. Those kind of things. Very simple 1-2-liners just to start or kick off the conversation. Is that right, Shravan?
Absolutely, Stella. I think that's a great tip that you have shared, because nowadays with LinkedIn having automated messages, people just say, thank you for adding me to your network. So to personalize the message will make the person feel that you're a warm human being on the other side. That's a great tip, Stella.
Okay. So for apart from LinkedIn, where else would you suggest for me to build up my network?
So I would suggest you to look into your own, the sector where you're seeking jobs for. I would suggest that you look into, the specific focus area where you want to build your skills into, whether it's on LinkedIn or whether it is, there are formal associations in every sector. There are associations for people interested in electronic engineering. There's a media association which people can join. There is Society of Human Resources and Management if people are looking to, get into the HR field. So identify the trade associations or the specific skill area that you want to, build your skill set on, and you can get it. Definitely, Stella, if people have very specific questions based on their profile, I would be happy if they could, reach out to you and share what they're doing. And based on their profile, I can recommend, what are the non-social media groups that they could join or associations they could join for networking. Because a really broad question. There are 106, 150 different sectors. So all of them have various, probabilities. There are a lot of offline forums which an individual can join to further their career.
Okay, sure. Another question we have here, what will be your tip, right, for a fresh graduate or a young professional? What will be the first few steps that the person can do on LinkedIn?
So the first step would be to not believe that anything that you've done is not significant. I find that there are a lot of freshers who would have, participated in co-curricular activities, social community work, or extracurricular activities, believing that it's not relevant on LinkedIn. It's important for you to look back at everything that you've done during your college life and see where you can detail them out on LinkedIn. The second is that when you reach out to people and you are looking out for a job, I would suggest that you go through their profile and ask them for career advice on either specific areas or general areas by going through their profile, to ensure that you're not just sending people your profile on LinkedIn asking them to give you a job. So that's what I would recommend. Do your research on the person whom you're connecting to, put up your profile, constantly upskill yourself, definitely, and look at what people who are a year older to you have done before you. So that will also give you an idea on how you can build your skills and where your education or your background can take you in terms of multiple pathways.
Thank you, Shravan, for that. Okay, we have question for one more. We have time for one last question. So one of our attendees said, currently in this difficult economy, most fresh graduates are only concerned with just looking for a job. This is particularly true for law and business graduates. in this case, is there any alternative approach to building a specific network? For example, maybe building a quality but diverse network of people from multiple industries? Or is it always best to find one specific line of work to focus on networking there?
I think this is a phenomenal question, because this also leads us to what's the effort that we want to put in terms of what we are looking. I would recommend, Stella, a combination of both approaches, primarily because today we are at a point where, because of technology automating a lot of roles, freshers sometimes, when they're looking out for job profiles, unlike earlier, if you were a business graduate, you would just look at marketing, HRM, and you would, for example, look at finance. But today, for a business graduate, there are multiple opportunities and pathways. So one has to see what are the transferable skills that you built and where that could be applicable, across a diverse set of industries. So it's important for a person to have conversations. So to do that, what I would recommend is for people to create self-initiated projects where, for example, if you're really curious about a field which is different from yours, build a set of questions and start reaching out to people, asking them questions out of curiosity about the nature of the work and what's happening there. So that will, definitely help you get a better understanding of what that new areas are all about. And you can build a diverse network, because when you reach out to people and say that you're doing this research and you want to know more about, a lot of people would be curious to know why you're doing, right? So if you can be honest with them and say, I'm curious to know where my interests and skills can take me apart from the conventional pathways, right? The other alternative definitely would be to go deeper, to talk to multiple people across industries who have the same profile as yours. So if you're a law graduate, you could, just look at all the different roles that somebody with a law background is utilizing, right? So just to give an example, after completing your education in law, you can go into you can go into practice, fighting criminal cases. You can go into business law in terms of intellectual property rights and areas like that. You can also work with NGOs and build your base in terms of conflict resolution, conflict management, and help with community negotiation, peacemaking dialogues. So there are various pathways that one can take in terms of a singular background in business or law. But it's important, Stella, to be curious about what is the path that people before us have taken, and not just look at the conventional pathways, but also unconventional pathways that people might have taken, right? So I would recommend approach which includes both these pathways.
Thank you, Shravan. I think one very important tip that I can take from your sharing just now would be self-initiative. Yeah, while you want to learn from other people, from your connection, your network, there's also the need for each and every one of us to learn things on our own, not just be spoon-fed, right? So it's really important, while you want to learn about a new industry, a new skill, while you learn from other industry experts, you also go out there and pick up the skill yourself. There's
Stella,
a lot of free. Yep, sorry.
No, Stella, just one more point. It just struck me. I just want to give an example.
Sure.
So I had this situation where I had a client who returned from doing her business masters, her business management from USA. And this was a few years ago, and she was really passionate about getting into visual merchandising and retail. But of course, she had no experience, right? So when she came to me, we came up with a self-initiated project where she went to different retail stores and talked to them, and identified how they were setting up their visual merchandise in these stores, right? In malls, shopping malls, and individual superstores across brands, right? And then when she went in for an interview and they said, you have no prior experience, how can we hire you? As we had planned, she opened a PowerPoint presentation and showed them, different retail stores where she had done her research. She had talked to them, identified vendors who source for Christmas and other functions, where they source their visual merchandise, mannequins, and other props for promotions. And needless to say that they were really impressed by the fact that she had done a self-initiated project rather than just going from one job to another. Just to revalidate what you were saying, Stella.
Yeah, thank you so much for the sharing. Really very important for each of us to put in that discipline and the self-initiative to pick up new skills, right? So thank you very much, Shravan, for sharing with us the importance of research-based networking. Okay, so thank you very much once again, every one of you, for joining us. I hope Shravan has shared with you very useful and interesting tips that each and every one of you can use. Okay, so thank you once again, Shravan. We will see you again.
Happy networking, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.